Welcome to another Gene Key Contemplation video. I tried to film outside, but it's a little too cold here. So I'm sitting in my car contemplating Gene Key 54, the current sun transit. The shadow is greed, the gift is aspiration, and the siddhi is ascension. As with all the shadow frequencies, when we hear the word, in this case, greed, we think, I'm not that. I'm not greedy. But we have to look very closely and deeply at the ways we have greed and we play to greed in our life. In the audio of this one, Richard Rudd gives a startling statistic, which a lot of us know at some level, that 62 people on the whole planet have as much wealth as half of the poorest population. That's 3.6 billion people. 62 people have the same amount as 3.6 billion. Startling. So often when we think of greed, we think of people at the top, and those are the only greedy people. But we have to appreciate how we all play into that, whether or not we consciously consider ourselves greedy or not. And as with all the shadow levels, at the shadow level, this is a victim consciousness, and it's also a deep forgetting of our interconnectedness and our unity, and the fact that we are all one thing. So for there to be 62 people holding that much wealth, it takes a lot more people to play into that. And things are changing in all of these wonderful things, but greed and asking ourselves, like, how am I trying to find a bargain? How am I trying to, or how am I believing that I don't have enough or I'll never get enough? And the example that he uses in this audio is that, especially here, I live in North America, so there's a lot of privilege here, and the focus of making money and expanding business, and that is a goal that a lot of people have. And there eventually comes a time, you hear these stories often, when people make all the money and they make more than they could have ever imagined, and then they realize that they're not happy. And that's the journey with all the shadow levels, is to realize there's nothing external that can make us feel secure or happy, and that it's an inside job. And so that's when we start to ascend the frequencies and get into the gift level. And a lot of times, I've mentioned in other contemplations, and if you're not new to Gene Keys, you understand that every Gene Key has what's called a programming partner, which is an opposite. It's an opposite force that keeps us in a loop. So in this case, the programming partner is immaturity. And this immaturity keeps us from expanding into the gift level. And so it keeps us locked into this greed loop. And so it can be very hard to escape the shadow level in our lifetime. But if we dare to look at how, these shadows operate in our life, and of course, if you're new to the Gene Keys, you can literally look at your shadows if you dare. It's kind of like taking the red pill or the blue pill. You have to be very conscious of your choice. You can go to genekeys.com and put in your birth date and get your very specific chart to look at your shadows, again, if you dare. And again, it's also helpful to know what your gifts are, and then even the siddhis, your highest potential of expression, which if in this lifetime, we could be so lucky to experience that state. But the bigger thing is to just realize our gifts and the journey that is in that frequency band of the gift, which isn't a destination to get to. It really is that whole conversation of like, it's the journey, not the destination, because that gift level is a beautiful level, and it's also challenging as well. It's not like you escape the shadow level and then all of a sudden you have your gift and you never experience shadows again, or you never experience struggle or challenges. That greed is it's like a a force, it's a fuel that we need. It's that ego identity that creates us to expand in the first, catalyzes us to expand in the first place. So again, it's worth mentioning that the shadows aren't bad or wrong. And in fact, if we judge, that's a surefire way to stay in the shadow frequencies. So when we're able to step out of non-judgment and allow ourselves to go through this journey of life, ups and downs included, we, at this level, at this theme, get to the gift of aspiration. And I love how he distinguishes aspiration being different from ambition. And I've really felt this one in my life. And actually on my plane ride to getting here, I was speaking with a nice woman. She was asking me about my New Year's goals as we're here in 2025. And it's not the first year that I haven't had goals, but it's the first year where I feel so sure about not having goals. And that's what he distinguishes. The ambition is having a future-oriented specific goal. And the reason why I don't have that anymore is because I've been living this surrendered life and been sharing in my Gene Key contemplations the magic of being pulled to where I live out on Vancouver Island and how much that suits me. And that was a surrendered journey to getting to that place, and it was something beyond what my mind could have comprehended. And he says with aspiration, it's you're still longing for something higher and more. It's just you don't know what that is, but you know that it's there. And so you go for that. You allow yourself to keep stretching and expanding. So I love that differentiator between aspiration and ambition and how that resonates with me. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. How does the word ambition feel for you and versus aspiration? He also says that the word aspiration is similar to the word inspiration, which is the root word, I breathe, inspire, I breathe. And I love how when we can deepen our breath and trust the process of life and trust the unknown and not to be so attached to our goals, that there's just a natural pulling us higher if we surrender to that, challenges and all. And then at the Siddhic level of ascension, with all the Siddhis, this is where we're fully tapped in and embodying at every single cell of our being that we are all connected. We are all one thing. And we, in a way, sort of transcend the humanness and access other planes, but it doesn't mean that we leave our body. And in fact, we're more in our body. And the way he describes it, and he says that at every single one of your cells is experiencing freedom. And the mirror of that is, like he was saying in this audio, the audio of this Gene Key, that if there's even just one person in your life that still gives you a challenge, if you're avoiding that, then you're sidestepping and you're kind of stepping into the energy of greed, the shadow. Whereas it's about facing every single challenge, every single difficulty, every single obstacle is going right into it and understanding that that's how we transmute, that's how we transcend. And that's what we're here for. We're here not just to make money, which is what we see at the greed level. It's like, yes, we can expand in our business and we can expand and make so much more money, but that's not the goal of living. The goal of living is to expand our consciousness. And somebody at the level of ascension, which as he says with all the Siddhis, this takes lifetime. It's not a promise. It's not a game. It's not something that's easy. It's not something, and I've been in these workshops where they're selling ascension over, 6-week course or something like that, which is funny and also was a part of my discernment about my own spiritual path. There is no shortcut. At the shadow level, we're looking for that shortcut. We want the 6 easy steps to just get over the challenges that we have in our life. Whereas it's going into the challenges, it's going into the fire, it's going down into hell and burning all of the karma that we have in every single one of our cells. And then being that bright light that we think of when we think of a figure like Jesus Christ, who reached that level of ascension and was an embodiment of that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on any of these themes. Have you experienced that spiritual discernment by perhaps following a spiritual guide that was perhaps in their spiritual ego? Or have you experienced the levels of greed perhaps that you're still in, and where those little tricksy patterns can show up? Whatever you want to share, I'd love to hear from you, and I'll see you in the next video.